Welcome, everyone. My name is Shawn Jones, and I'm the CEO of the iNetrapreneur Network. And today I have with me, she is a very well-known publisher. She is all about helping others gift their legacy to their generations following. She is the founder, owner, creator of Gifts of Legacy. I have with me Natalie Mcqueen. Natalie, welcome.
Thank you, Shawn.
So, Natalie, everybody talks about, I have this business or I do this or that. But as you well know, I always love to give our audience some insight as to who we are behind our businesses. So share with us a little bit about who is Natalie Mcqueen.
All right. Well, Natalie Mcqueen has wore a few different hats. And in the last probably over 6 years, it has been in book publishing. And I have loved helping other people get their stories out and really share to the world their message. And about 5 years ago, I had a near-death experience myself. And what happened was I really had an entire mind shift change. And I realized, not that I didn't realize that family was important, not that I didn't know what I know, but it just gave me a different perspective. And I played the what if game. What if I hadn't survived? How would my family be? What words were left behind? And that really sparked me to, number one, write my own book, which just published in February 17th. And it's called Gifts of Legacy, the Ultimate Blueprint for Generations to Enjoy. And it is a little bit about my story, but then it really is about sharing your wisdom and your stories, your everything that you've learned in life in different ways. And then not only that, taking the important documents and making sure that everything is set in case something happens. You want to protect your family, and then you want to share your gifts of your legacy yourself. So I have some amazing products coming, and I'm loving the feedback that I'm getting from people reading my book and sharing stories of family members that they have lost or that they want to honor. Like, I still have my grandma, 102 years old, and I love talking about her because she's amazing.
When you think about where we're at today, our current generation, we're pretty much a generation, and I'm not talking the 40s and the 30-year-olds, I'm talking the new generations coming up. We are in a disposable generation, meaning that we don't stop and think about the value of family until it's too late. Unlike our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents, where we have the old black and white photos, or the ones that were the two-tone brown, and old letters in those shoe boxes. Yes. That as somebody passes, they kind of just get sent down generation to generation. You, through your own experience, have created a way for these newer generations, or the ones that we're currently in, your age group, my age group, where we can put together something for our families, and not just one person, but everyone in a family. And you've also created a way for those family members that are still young and vibrant, where they can be part of these legacy books. Share with us what you're actually doing to help the generations keep their legacy alive.
Absolutely, sure. So I have created a one-of-a-kind system that you can use in different ways, because you're exactly right. The new generation, they want to talk in their stuff. They want to use their cell phones and record themselves. And then my parents' age and grandmother, they barely know how to work a computer. So we've put together a system that works for all of those levels. And we've put together beautiful templates where if you want to handwrite, you can handwrite. If you want to type it in, you can type it in. If you want to talk it in, you can talk it in. And you can create a legacy book of your own, a legacy book for your family. There's all different ways to do it. For my grandmother, I know I've talked about this before, so I'll make it very brief, but we took her words, interviewed her, put those in the beginning of the book, and then she had 8 children. So each one of them, my one aunt had passed, so that my uncle wrote for her. Everyone did a little chapter of just being a part of the family and, you know, what it meant to them. And then the grandchildren, great grandchildren, and then well wishes from family and friends at the end. It was such a beautiful book. And that book has inspired many other families to start their own legacy book. And sometimes we don't know where our traditions that we do, say every Christmas or every Hanukkah, why we maybe believe something that we believe. Maybe it's within our faith or just within our family rules and beliefs. Sometimes we carry on beliefs that don't even serve us anymore. And that's a big part of what I do. I work with individuals to analyze, you know, what beliefs and belief systems are you carrying, and do they serve you? Here's an example. There was a great grandmother and mother and a daughter, and the daughter and mother were cooking together, making a ham. And the mother took the ham and she cut off about this much on this end and this much on this end and put it in the pan and put it in the oven. And the daughter said, "So Mom, why do you always cut the ends off?" And she goes, "Well, I don't know. My mom has always done that. So I just do the same thing." So she goes, "That doesn't make sense to me. You would think that, you know, you just put the whole ham in the oven." So they said, "Well, let's call Grandma and see why." And so they call up the grandmother and she said, "Well, honey, back then the ovens weren't as big and my pan was only this big. So the ham wouldn't fit in the pan. So I always had to cut off the ends." So there's a tradition that was carried down and doesn't serve anyone any good anymore. So really looking at what serves you and what life are you living? You know, do you know your purpose? Do you know your passion? And are you going to live it, create it and live it? Or are you going to turn and say, "Oh my gosh, I have so many regrets of not living that life"?
What's beautiful about the gifts of legacy and what your company does for others is it's not just about those of us that are aging out. We want us to, you know, to continue living on through our family generations, but you can even create it from when your child is born. Create one for them. You know, again, we're in this day and age where it's easy to whip out your phone and take a snapshot and then upload it to the cloud. So we don't necessarily have those boxes of images that we can carry down, but you can create one for each individual child. You know, take it a step further. Let's say you're that foster parent and you have kiddos that come to you. You can start, because of the templates that you offer, they can have those templates and start a history book for that child that goes from home to home until they find their forever family. I mean, there are so many different ways it can be used as a legacy for somebody's career.
Yes, I love that. I never thought of that as being passed for someone else to continue. That's amazing, actually. So in our system, we do have a way where you can leave whatever, if it's written, if it's printed, if it's images, if it's video, and you can put it to each child, or you can group it together if it's a family that the whole family would enjoy. So that is a fantastic idea, to be able to have that child's video and or whatever you've put together for them, and then allow the access for the other family.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, not only are you helping others create their legacy, but you're creating almost like a modern day scrapbook. And I know that for some people, they go, "Oh, scrapbook, that's not for me." But it's like you've taken the traditional scrapbook and you've taken those platforms where you can store your images and put those images on, different promotional items. You can have prints made, canvases made, and you've combined all these tools and resources through Gifts of Legacy, the company that you have created based on your own experience that happened to you 5 years ago. So very incredible. When you work with someone, Natalie, and when I say someone, because you work with families, you work with individuals, you work with couples, you work with business owners and entrepreneurs. When you work with a prospective client, what is your process? Do you accept everyone? Or is it more like an interview? Do we interview Natalie, or what does this look like?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways. I work with people more as a coaching and workshops to create your legacy, because so many people are on the hamster wheel of life and they are not living their passions, their dreams. They say, someday I'm going to go to Europe. Someday I'm going to have a family. Someday I'll get in shape and exercise. And they don't do it. So I show them ways that they can implement little steps, doable steps every day, and work at all those different areas of your life. So first assessing where maybe you're not 100% fulfilled, and then making those dream goals. I call it a legacy bucket list, or a legacy list, like a bucket list. And that's putting down everything you want to achieve. What do you want to be remembered by? How do you want to make an impact on others? How do you want to impact your community? How do you want to impact the world? And I'll make this super short, but one of my favorite foundations is sorry, I'm blanking on Make-A-Wish Foundation. I love what they do for children that are sick, and it's kind of their last dying wish. And Frank Shankwitz, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, and he's from Arizona, so this is close to us, Sean. He, in 1980, helped, before the foundation was created, helped a little boy that wanted to be a motorcycle patrol officer as his dying wish. Frank himself was a motorcycle police officer and helped in making this wish come true. That inspired, seeing what that did to that little boy, inspired Frank to start his foundation, which is now one of the biggest and most successful foundations for children. Frank did not realize that one small act of kindness, being helpful in his own field, helping make that wish come true for that little boy, could have such an impact on the world. Think of the I don't even know how many children, thousands and thousands of children that have been impacted by him just stepping out and doing a random act of kindness. And when I was picking a day to launch my book, February 17th was one of those days that stuck out to me, which is Random Acts of Kindness Day. Because I truly believe if we think about living our best lives and who we want to impact and how, and what our God-given gifts are, and how we can use those to serve others or to just make someone's day a little brighter. What could our world be if everyone had that mindset of just serving, living our life to the fullest, giving ourselves self-love and time to enjoy life, and then working towards our goals to meet, our true passions and purpose. why we're here, celebrating with our families.
Absolutely. You mentioned Frank Shankowitz and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and something I don't share is my sister passed away when she was an infant.
Oh, wow.
And back then, Las Vegas did not have a NIC unit for infants. And the nearest one was California, and the expenses of having a child born with many, many, many difficulties. On the outside, she looked just like a normal child. And when I say normal, you know, all the fingers, toes, everything. But she was blind, she was deaf, she had insides of her body and her brain that were not functioning. And so Make-A-Wish actually helped my family years ago with the expenses, and they would fly my parents and my sister when she was with us to California to get the help that she needed to sustain as long as her little body allowed her to sustain.
Right.
So yes, knowing Frank and when he was with us and seeing him and being able to hug him, I never shared that story, but at the same time, he's helped so many people in so many ways over the years. So with Gifts of Legacy, you're doing the same thing, Natalie. How can people get in touch with you? Again, whether they're individuals, they're families, they're couples, they're entrepreneurs, somebody starting out in their profession, maybe a teacher who just got her teaching credentials or his and wants to start their legacy. How can they get in contact with you?
Sure. So the best way is probably just to email me at giftsoflegacy@gmail.com, and feel free to ask for I have a legacy blueprint flip book that I would love to share with anyone that reaches out and books a time to talk. I would love if you brought up teachers or anyone that's mentoring people. We have some great templates that we can share and guide the younger generations to start thinking about the end, not in a morbid way, but what do you want to be remembered by? Because sometimes I feel you just live your day to day and all of a sudden you're 70.
Yes, time definitely flies. Natalie, I want to thank you so much for taking time to be here, sharing more about your company, Gifts of Legacy.
Oh, thank you, Sean. It's always a pleasure.
For those of you who are watching, you have just watched the interview of Natalie Mcqueen. She is the owner, founder, creator of Gifts of Legacy. She is also a speaker at the upcoming Art of Connection Summit, which is a global online event held on March 31st. You can listen more to Natalie as she speaks. There will be Q&A sessions so you can get your questions answered directly. And Natalie will be hosting several workshops throughout the event so you can take away and get a real sampling of what Natalie does when she works with her clients. To get your ticket, go to artofconnectionsummit.com.